and welcome to Beyond the Hustle. I'm Alice, a certified NLP mindset and women's health coach, and I'm so beyond excited you're here. This podcast is for the human behind the success, the woman behind the business, behind the grind of building that legacy. Here we dive deep into mindset, rewiring your subconscious mind, nervous system regulation, and energetics. Basically everything that helps you feel grounded and grow sustainably. Whether you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, burnt out, or ready to step into your next level of success and self, this podcast will give you the tools, insights, and shifts to help you move forward with clarity, calm, and conviction. So if you're ready to stop hustling from fear and finally build success that feels as good as it looks, you're in the right place. Welcome to Beyond the Hustle. Hello. Welcome back to the Beyond the Hustle podcast, the podcast for building the human that you are behind the business and behind the success. I'm so excited to dive into another episode, and can I just say it's been so nice to be able to come on here and properly dive into the topic that I go through with my clients and actually utilize the space to open that up for you guys as well, for people who are not in the coaching, who are unaware of what subconscious reprogramming might be, how to regulate nervous system, like to really be able to dive in and bridge that gap between what the fuck is this and I understand it and here I can start to take action. That's what I want this space to be. So I am very, very excited to bring more episodes and to speak more to what I actually do with clients in sessions to bridge that gap for you. As you can tell by the topic of the title of this podcast, today we're diving into selling with conviction and why selling feels hard, and then how to change that. And the reason that I really wanted to make this episode is because all of my clients, and I'm not even joking, all of my clients at the moment are struggling with selling and selling with conviction. And all of the women that I'm speaking to in my DMs and I'm having conversations with are struggling with selling with conviction. Like, it seems to be such a massive problem at the moment. And I think there's a couple of reasons, obviously, why. Like, there's a lot of, and this is what a lot of my clients have said, there's so many coaches in the industry, there's so many people to compare to, there's all of these people selling, and I don't want to be seen as pushy and salesy and all of this, right? And people who've come to me from past mentors where they've been told to sell in a very specific way that doesn't feel authentic to them as well. And then, of course, it feels really uncomfortable to sell now because they've been pushed into selling in a way that's not authentic to them at all, and that feels kind of quote unquote icky, right? Don't get me wrong, I've done that in the past as well. It's a massive problem that I'm seeing in everyone, and I really want to make this podcast to really dive deep into where that block actually comes from, why selling actually feels hard, and why you struggle to sell with conviction, and then how you can begin to reprogram that and actually begin to build that conviction again and build that trust and build that confidence. And when it comes to selling with conviction, there's really two things that this comes down to. The first thing that all of my clients will say, and everything is always coming down to the surface level problem, if you will. So the surface level is like the problem that you think you have. And this is where you're probably going to say, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to sell. I get a mind blank when I get in front of the camera, right? Like, I stand in front of the camera to sell, and then I get a mind blank, and it's like, well, what's the point in pushing through? Like, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm getting frustrated, right? Predicting that people are going to say no, predicting that people aren't going to buy into you. And also a lot of people just now saying we're coming into silly season and no one is buying, right? I'm seeing that one a lot as well, and people fell onto that last year as well. We're coming into December, we're in November, like, no one's buying, everyone's just saving for Christmas. And respectfully, like, yes, some people probably are, but how do you also know that people in your audience, or that people that you sell to, or that, like, your ideal clients, aren't in the market to invest in themselves and to better themselves and to buy your product or your service, if you're not then allowing them the chance because you're not selling, I also think there's, to some degree as well, like, a lot of people are wanting to just avoid selling for the sake of selling, whereas you're also if you're in a service-based like job or career, selling is very much a part of that, right? Like, selling is very much a part of that. So it's something that, like, you kind of can't avoid. But if you are struggling to sell with conviction, and what we're about to go into, then it's going to make it a whole lot harder for you. Anyway, ramble to the side. I'm going to try and keep these like to the point because I could ramble for days. But yeah, the surface level problem is the problem that you think you have. Not knowing what to say, lack of clarity, mind blank, lack of confidence in what you're saying, like having no idea how to actually close that gap, essentially, of telling people what it is that I do, and then getting them to actually invest, right? That's what you think is, it's like a minefield, right? That's what you think the problem is. The real problem underneath that is your fear that's driving that. And this fear is driving you to pass blame onto these externals of, people are going to say no, it's silly season, so shouldn't sell. I'm getting a mind blank in front of the camera, right? Yes, that's an internal thing, but you're also kind of passing blame onto that as well, right? Rather than probably scripting and deciding what it is that you're actually going to say. So when we strip it back, the real problem is that you actually fear being seen. Okay, you actually have a fear of being seen underneath that surface level problem. And I'm just looking at my screen here where I've written down some of the things that my clients have said before when we've gone into this fear and we've understood this fear of what they have felt in that fear of being seen and what they've perceived that they'll be seen as if they sell. So naturally, they have a fear of being seen, and they become afraid that if they sell, they'll be seen as greedy, pushy, salesy, too much, too loud, too big for their boots. And something that I do want to preface as well is I see this so much in women in business, in the starting phases of business, in stepping into that success and stepping into the potential of bigger success, of this feels really uncomfortable because I've kind of seen this perception of women stepping into success as all of these negative connotations, all of these judgments, all of these perceptions that they become this, they become arrogant, they become this, they become greedy, people don't like them, people judge them, they are bitch, for lack of a better word, right? Like, and I think that's something that we don't give enough value or space to, for sure. But even that, in that sense, is, that's your fear of being seen. 100%, that is your fear of being seen coming in and driving those thoughts as well, because you're now afraid of being seen as that woman who's disliked, who's hated, who's judged in her success. And this fear of being seen that you have is exactly why you get in front of the camera and you get a mind blank, right? Even if you have prepped what you're going to say, or if you haven't prepped what you're going to say, then that is self-sabotage, because you're not allowing yourself to have clarity. But if you step in front of the camera and you get that mind blank, this fear of being seen is exactly where you're getting the mind blank, because that's your subconscious trying to protect you from being seen as these things that you presume you will be seen as. Okay. So if I was to sit down here and I had a fear of being seen, as I did once, if I was to sit here and I really was afraid that by launching a podcast that people were going to think I was vain, I was, I'm trying to think of what I used to struggle with. Like, people would think I was vain, I was too much, I was too loud, I was greedy. I would probably sit here and I'd be fumbling on my words and I'd be panicking, and I'd probably get in my blank, and then I'd probably eventually get so frustrated at how many takes I was trying to do that I would give up, right? Because I was probably trying to get it really perfect so that people would judge it less, right? But all of that did was then, and this is in different contexts of like more content because I've not done a podcast before, but every single time that happened when I was trying to make content and trying to do different things, it would stop me from doing the thing, which would stop me from being seen in more success, or seen in that content, or seen in that way, and then stop me from receiving judgment or criticism or anything that people might perceive me as by doing that thing. And this is the thing, like, your subconscious is going to kind of fuck you over at times, okay? And I say that in the best way possible, because your subconscious is always going to have a positive intention, but it's not always going to feel like a positive intention. So if you are, someone who you're really struggling to get in front of a camera and actually say, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm selling, this is what I'm doing, obviously that doesn't feel like a positive intention. But when we dive into it deeper, it's because your subconscious is trying to protect you from going and doing the thing and being seen as this thing, being seen as this person, being seen in this perception, in this judgment, in this criticism. That's what your subconscious is trying to protect you from, by bringing in self-sabotage, by bringing in the mind blank, by bringing in you stumbling on your words, right? Because if you were able to actually execute the thing with full conviction, full confidence, and feel really good in what it was that you were doing, and then you receive this criticism or this judgment or this perception, that's then where it's going to crumble down into that fear of being seen is going to come back in and be like, oh my gosh, this feels so unsafe. And when we dive deeper into this fear and actually look at why you have this fear, you've likely felt this fear before. Like, you're not feeling it for the first time now stepping in front of a camera. You're not feeling it for the first time now trying to sell your service. This fear has been built up throughout your entire life. Okay, this fear just doesn't get plucked out of thin air because you decided to start a business. But it's now coming to light because you're trying to do something that is putting you in the spotlight, and that's why it feels so uncomfortable and so hard. It could be that when you were younger, you were likely surrounded by people who were judgmental towards people in success, women in business, women in success, people in the spotlight, people on stage, or insert the thing that was them being fully seen as themselves, right? Or you might have had a moment or many in life where you allowed yourself to be fully seen. You allowed yourself to fully step into the spotlight. You allowed yourself to say, this is what I do, or this is what I'm going to do, and have that conviction and have that like full trust and fully back yourself. And someone made a comment, or someone didn't like it, or someone did something that made you feel that you were greedy, pushy, too loud, too big, too much, insert the thing. And that's where that fear of being seen has come from, and that's where it's constantly been built up over the years. And now getting in front of the camera or trying to do something to sell yourself now is uncomfortable as fuck, because when you were younger, you decided you had this fear of being seen, you couldn't be in the spotlight. Now over time it's being built up, built up, built up, built up. You've got all this evidence to back up this fear. So of course it's going to feel really uncomfortable and really hard and like impossible to do the thing now. Now, when it comes to rewiring and challenging that fear and building on that fear and building away from that fear, I'm not going to lie, the absolute best way to do that is obviously through subconscious reprogramming. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an NLP mindset coach. That genuinely is the truth, because I and all of my clients have never felt bigger shifts than doing those subconscious shifts. However, there are ways that you can bridge the gap. Like I said at the start, there are ways that you can actually begin to build on removing this fear of being seen and begin to bridge that gap and close the gap of where you are now, struggling to sell and struggling to sell with conviction, versus where you actually want to be, standing in your confidence, standing in your power, standing in, this is what I'm really fucking good at, this is what I can do, and this is what I can offer, right? There's ways that you can close that gap. And that's what I really want to dive into with you today. And these are the two of the processes that I really focus on with my clients in our one-to-one sessions, and actually in removing this fear of being seen more consciously rather than subconsciously. So the first thing is creating clarity, because if you don't know what you're selling, who you're selling to, the solution that you solve, the solution that you get to sell, you're not going to be able to sell with conviction, right? Can you imagine if I was sitting here on this podcast going, welcome to Beyond the Hustle podcast, the podcast to remove burnout and panic and to really regulate your like, no. Okay, can you, like, if I was sitting here and panicking and being like, this is what I do, then you guys listening would be like, see you later, right? Like, whereas I can sit here and say this podcast is for the human behind the business and the success, because that's what I'm so confident, passionate, and powerful in doing, is fully aligning, leveling up, and focusing on elevating the human that you are behind the business and behind the success to reap bigger rewards, bigger success, to maintain that bigger success. I don't know if you guys could tell that my voice is breaking there. But if you don't know what it is that you actually do, and you can't stand here or sit here, because I'm sitting, and actually say, this is the problem I solve, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is who I am outside of business, outside of success as well, then you're not going to be able to sell with conviction. Sorry, but you actually just won't. So the first thing you actually need to do is create complete clarity. And I do not want you to just think along the lines of, the problem that I solve is burnout for like 40-year-old women. Okay. There's so much to unpack in that, right? you're not going to be able to sell conviction with that either. Okay. I want you to dive deep. What actually is it that you do? What actually is it that you solve? Like, what are the actual like results of solving that problem? Like, what is it? Who is it you actually are? Right? Create clarity on you, your service, your offers, your clients, like the journey. Like, create complete clarity. Go so deep into understanding that so that you can sit here and tell me exactly what it is that you do, exactly the gap that you close, and exactly the result that you allow others to hold. And also create clarity on the reason that you're selling as well. Like, and I'm not saying this in a way, in a place of being like, you need to know your why, but like, create clarity on why are you selling this as well? Are you selling this? Because again, if I was to sit here and say I'm not selling, I'm sitting on this podcast and I'm saying this podcast so that people can know more about their mind. No, I'm selling. I'm speaking on this podcast in a way, selling, so that I can close the gap for people where they don't currently have access to coaching, or they currently have questions about coaching, but they want to know more about what they can be doing in the meantime to rewire their mind, to challenge their mind, to regulate the nervous system, right? You can see the difference in that and the clarity that creates for me. And again, the conviction that I convey in that. And the second part, and the second kind of process that I want to take you through as well, is that you feel afraid of being seen right now because your subconscious has only linked being seen with danger and with the potential of unsafety, because your mind is only focusing on evidence that backs that up. Your mind is constantly looking for evidence that selling is unsafe because I sold that one time and this person didn't like that. Or I sold this one time and this person said, oh, that's a bit expensive. Or I had a sales call once and someone said no, right? Like, your subconscious is only ever filtering out the evidence that backs up this fear of being seen, this fear of selling, this fear of, if I sell, someone's going to tell me I'm too much or someone's not going to like that. Maybe there was one time when, I sold or I got into a story and someone made a joke that, oh, like, big for your boots, right? And maybe they meant it as a complete joke, but because your subconscious and your mind is trying to look for all this evidence that you are too big for your boots because you subconsciously believe it, your mind has gone, oh, that's evidence. That means we can't do that thing again. That means we can't do it. So your mind is constantly filtering that. And I want you to think along the lines of the red car theory, right? You know, when you're trying to look for a red car, you're trying to, like, maybe you want to buy a red car, and your mind, you suddenly start to see all of these red cars, and your mind is like focusing on seeing all these red cars. You don't probably notice all the other cars that you see because you want the red car. It's exactly what your subconscious is doing with this fear of being seen, right? So it can be as simple as someone says something and your mind takes it and you take it in a way that is actually misconstruing it. So again, someone says, or it could even be that you walk into a room and you're like, hey, everybody, I'm whatever, this is who I am. And like, one person is maybe looking at the ground because maybe they struggle with confidence themselves, but your mind goes, they don't like me. They don't like me. They're judging me. They don't like me. Okay. Why don't they like me? Because I'm too much. Because I'm too loud. Because I'm too this. Because I'm that. Right? Insert your fear of being seen. And essentially, what we really want to start to do is create evidence for your mind that selling, and selling with conviction, actually gets to be safe. And I really hate saying push through, because I feel like when people say it, it's like, oh, just push through the fear, push through the thing. And I'm like, pushing through only gets you so far. However, if you allow yourself to begin to create evidence that selling is safe, you begin to rewire that attachment in your mind. Okay. And you begin to show yourself and feel a little more comfortable, a little bit more convicted in what you're doing in selling and all, and insert the thing, right? Because you're now creating and banking up this evidence. If you were kind of looking at this as like a scales scenario, right now your fear of being seen is way up here and all the evidence you have is stacked way up here, and your ability to step into the spotlight and feel comfortable and feel safe and feel good and confident and convicted is way down here because of all this evidence right now. What we want to do is bit by bit bring this down, this fear of being seen, and bring your ability to be convicted I don't know why convicted just is making me sound like, you're being convicted of a crime, but stand in your conviction, like bring that evidence up bit by bit, right? And the way that I want you to do this is start small. I'm not saying go and sell on your stories every single fucking day. Go and begin, like, even if you choose one area, one way of selling, one form of selling, one, maybe you stand on a story and you speak your truth. Maybe you post a story sequence, whatever it may be. Sell with complete conviction in that space. The next time that you do it, add more conviction, like consciously add more confidence to it. Consciously think, how can I say this and be even more confident in what I'm saying, even more confident in the solution that I provide? And then again, the next time, how can I be even more confident in this? What that does is every single time that you do it, you, for one thing, feel more comfortable in being confident and having that conviction. You also have the trust in selling because you're building that up bit by bit. You also then get to create evidence and show yourself that selling gets to be safe because, hey, look, I posted that story. No one actually disliked it. No one actually said I was too much. No one actually said that I was too big for my boots. No one actually said insert the thing. Maybe even someone said, I love what you said here. I love the way you look, or I love this. I love that. Like, maybe people like the stories if it was a story, right? Like, whatever it may be that you can take as evidence, take it as evidence and take that evidence, even if you write it down, onto a list of why selling with conviction gets to be safe. The more that you have, the easier and the better it is actually going to be to sell and to do the thing. So those are two of the processes that I focus on with my clients. And I'm not obviously going to dive into every single thing that I do with my clients to fix this problem and to close that gap. However, these two do provide some of the biggest results for them because it allows them to build that confidence, that conviction, that trust, and that like fulfillment in this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I sell, day by day. And that's the thing, at the end of the day, like, this is not an overnight success. This is not an overnight process, right? Rome wasn't built in a day, and removing this fear of being seen and removing any of your fears or your beliefs are not going to be done in a day. But the more that you allow yourself to apply like the things like this, these challenges, and the more that you allow yourself to create that evidence bit by bit, you're going to build up your resilience and your confidence and your conviction. Okay. So I'm going to leave the podcast here because I can tell that I will start rambling at any moment. But I hope that you really, really enjoyed this episode. I'm so excited to bring you even more episodes on burnout, on overwhelm, on navigating busy like seasons in business and slow seasons in business, because I can really see there's a massive gap for that as well just now, for clients struggling in both of those. And just to bring you a lot more on how to actually build and build yourself as a human outside of business, and also actually feel your best outside and inside your success. So if that is something that you are very interested in, and if you made it this far into the episode, thank you. But don't forget to hit the follow button, and don't forget as well, would love to hear your review, or if you can comment on this, would really help me out. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.